The year is 1945. The world is exhausted. World War II has been raging for 6 long years. In Japan, the cities are burning, but the spirit of the military is still fighting. People are tired, hungry, and just want the war to end. Among these people is a 29-year-old naval engineer named Tsutomu Yamaguchi. He works for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. He has been away from his home in Nagasaki for 3 months, working on a project in a city called Hiroshima. August 6 is supposed to be his last day. He is thinking about his wife, Hisako, and their baby son. He is packing his bags. He is ready to go home. Suddenly, at 8:15 a.m., he hears the drone of a lone plane high above. He looks up and sees a small silver speck. Then, the sky disappears. A flash of light, brighter than 1,000 suns, tears through the atmosphere. In that second, the world changes forever. Tsutomu Yamaguchi is about to become the only man in history to survive the most powerful weapon ever made, twice. This isn't just a story of survival, it's a story of tragic luck that defies everything we know about life and death. The last day in Hiroshima. It was a quiet Monday morning in Hiroshima, August 6, 1945. Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a Japanese engineer, was walking toward the Mitsubishi shipyard where he worked. Like many others, he was thinking about his job and his routine, not about war or danger. As he walked, he suddenly realized he had forgotten his hunko, a small personal stamp used to sign official documents. Annoyed but calm, Yamaguchi turned around to go back and retrieve it. At the time, it felt like a minor inconvenience. Nothing more than a small mistake in an ordinary day. He had no idea that this simple decision would change his fate. At 8:15 a.m., while he was heading back, the American atomic bomb known as Little Boy exploded over Hiroshima. A blinding flash filled the sky, followed by an overwhelming shockwave. Yamaguchi was about 2 miles away from the center of the blast. He was thrown to the ground and badly injured, but he survived. If he had continued on his original path toward the shipyard, he would have been much closer to the explosion and likely killed instantly. Forgetting his hanko, something so small and ordinary ended up saving his life. That single moment shows how, in times of history-changing events, tiny choices can mean the difference between life and death. The flash and the Picadon. Tsutomu Yamaguchi later described the moment as unreal, almost impossible to understand. He saw a blinding flash in the sky, like a giant magnesium flare exploding all at once. The light was so bright it seemed to erase everything around him. Instinct took over before his mind could react, and he threw himself into a nearby ditch, trying to protect his body. A split second later came the sound the survivors would later call Picadon. Pika meant flash. Don meant boom. The explosion followed the light with incredible force. The shockwave hit Yamaguchi and lifted him into the air, spinning him around like a leaf caught in a storm. The heat was overwhelming. It burned the skin on the left side of his body and scorched his clothes. The pain was instant and unbearable. As debris filled the air and the ground shook beneath him, Yamaguchi lost consciousness. When he blacked out, Hiroshima was already disappearing. Buildings collapsed. Dust and fire filled the sky, and the city was being erased in a single moment. What had been a normal morning had turned into destruction beyond anything the world had ever seen. Walking through the ruins. When Tsutomu woke up, the world around him no longer looked real. The sky above Hiroshima was dark, filled with thick smoke and falling ash that blocked out the sun. Everything was silent in one ear. He realized he could no longer hear on his left side. His head rang, and his body ached with pain. He slowly looked around and saw destruction everywhere. The Mitsubishi shipyard was gone. Buildings that once stood tall were now piles of dust and broken wood. Streets had vanished. Fires burned in every direction. It was as if the city had been wiped off the earth in a single moment. As he moved forward, he saw people stumbling through the ruins like ghosts. Their clothes were burned away. Some had skin hanging loosely from their arms and faces. Others were badly wounded, walking without speaking, too shocked to cry. The sight was horrifying and unforgettable. Even though his body was badly burned and his ears were bleeding, Tsutomu forced himself to keep going. Crawling and stumbling, he searched for shelter. By nightfall, he reached a place of safety. As darkness settled in, he lay awake, listening to the cries and screams echoing through the ruins, a dying city suffering through its longest night. The nightmare train. The next morning, August 7, Tsutomu knew he could not stay in Hiroshima any longer. He was injured, exhausted, and surrounded by destruction, but one thought pushed him forward. He needed to get home. Slowly and painfully, he made his way toward the train station, unsure of what he would find. What shocked him most was that the trains were still running. In a city that looked completely destroyed, this small piece of normal life felt unreal. To reach the platform, he had to cross a nearby river. When he looked down, his heart sank. The water was filled with bodies, victims who had not survived the blast or the fires. He forced himself to keep moving, step by step. The train was crowded with survivors just like him. Many were badly burned. Some were wrapped in torn bandages. Others sat silently, too weak or shocked to speak. The air inside was heavy with pain and fear. As the train began to move, it passed slowly through the ruins of Hiroshima, collapsed buildings, smoke, and fire still burning. The train carried Tsutomu away from the nightmare, heading toward the one place he believed was safe, his home in Nagasaki. He did not know it yet, but fate had one more devastating chapter waiting for him. The arrival in Nagasaki. On August 8, Tsutomu finally reached Nagasaki. He was barely recognizable. His body was wrapped in dirty bandages and his skin was burned and darkened from the blast. When he arrived home, his own mother did not recognize him at first. Seeing his injuries and his slow movements, she believed he was a ghost standing in front of her. Tsutomu went to the hospital to have his burns treated, but the doctors and nurses were already overwhelmed. There were too many wounded and not enough supplies. Even so, he was grateful to receive any help at all. Every movement caused pain, and his body was weak, but he felt something he hadn't felt since the explosion relief. He was home. That day, he told his family the truth about what had happened. Hiroshima is gone, he said. He explained the blinding flash, the fire, and the destruction. His family listened in disbelief. They could not understand how a single bomb could wipe out an entire city. To them, it sounded impossible, like something from a nightmare. Tsutomu rested that night believing the worst was behind him. He did not know that history was about to repeat itself, and that Nagasaki would soon face the same unimaginable horror. The meeting with the boss. The next day, August 9th, Tsutomu did something that seems almost impossible. Even though his body was burned, his ears were injured, and he was still in great pain, he went to work. He reported to the Mitsubishi office in Nagasaki, believing it was his duty to explain what he had seen. Sitting across from his supervisor, Tsutomu tried to describe the horror of Hiroshima. He spoke about the giant flash in the sky, the overwhelming heat, and how an entire city disappeared in seconds. He explained that one bomb had caused instant destruction on a scale he had never imagined. His boss did not believe him. Instead of reacting with concern, the supervisor laughed. He told Tsutomu that his story made no sense. "You are an engineer," he said. "How could a single bomb destroy a whole city?" He suggested that Tsutomu was confused, traumatized, and clearly unwell from his injuries. At that moment, Tsutomu stood there, wounded and exhausted, being told that what he experienced was impossible. Just as the meeting continued, the air raid sirens began to sound. Within moments, a familiar flash filled the sky over Nagasaki, proving in the most terrifying way that Tsutomu had been telling the truth all along. The second flash. As his boss was laughing and calling him crazy, the windows of the office turned white. At 11:02 a.m., the Fat Man atomic bomb exploded over Nagasaki. Tsutomu dived to the floor. He thought, "The mushroom cloud has followed me from Hiroshima." The windows shattered. The office walls collapsed. For the second time in 3 days, Tsutomu was at the center of a nuclear explosion. The Shield of the Hills. Nagasaki is a city of hills and valleys. This geography saved Tsutomu the second time. The office where he was standing was shielded by a mountain ridge that blocked the direct heat of the blast. Even though the building was destroyed, Tsutomu survived again with only minor new injuries. He ran through the burning streets, not for a shelter this time, but for his home. He was terrified that his wife and son were gone. The miracle of the family. When he reached his house, he found it in ruins. But his wife and son were alive. They had a small miracle of their own. Because Tsutomu had been so badly burned in Hiroshima, his wife had spent the morning out looking for medicine for him. When the second bomb dropped, she and the baby were in a tunnel-like shelter looking for a pharmacy. If Tsutomu hadn't been hurt in the first bomb, they would likely have been at home and died in the second. The double hibakusha. Tsutomu spent the next few weeks in a dark room. His hair fell out. His wounds turned green. He was suffering from radiation sickness, the invisible killer that the world didn't yet understand. He survived the illness, but for the rest of his life, he struggled with health issues. In 2009, the Japanese government officially recognized him as a Niju Hibakusha, double-bombed person. He was the only person ever to receive this official title. Tsutomu Yamaguchi lived to be 93 years old. He spent his final years speaking to the world, especially to young people. He had a simple message: no more Hiroshimas, no more Nagasakis. His story is one of the strangest in history. Was he the unluckiest man in the world for being in both cities? Or was he the luckiest man in the world for surviving both? He used to say that his survival was a path set by God so he could tell the story. But as we look at the world today, with thousands of nuclear weapons still sitting in silos, his story leaves us with a haunting question. We know one man can survive 2 bombs, but can our world survive a third? Tsutomu beat the odds twice. We might not be so lucky. His life forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Survival alone is not the lesson. The lesson is what we do with the warning left behind. He carried the memory of 2 destroyed cities, so the world wouldn't have to relive them. Yet decades later, those weapons still exist, waiting in silence. Tsutomu's story asks us to decide whether history is a warning or just another chapter we ignore. Because next time, there may be no survivor left to tell the story. The future is listening to us right now, even if it cannot speak. What we choose today will decide whether this story remains a warning or becomes a prophecy. Do you think Tsutomu was lucky or cursed? Write your thoughts in the comments. If you want to hear more stories about the incredible people who lived through the darkest days of history, hit that subscribe button. Let's keep their memories alive.